Sophia's earliest memories began in the summer of 1990. It started as an elusive, almost abstract scent that filled the air throughout the entire summer. From it, one could smell the faded lime green walls of the old apartment, the mold spots on the ceiling that resembled dark clouds, the sunset fragmented by the buildings on the balcony, the overgrown roses in the flower bed that hadn't been pruned, the withered gardenias with countless bugs crawling all over their centers, the rust on the slide in the town square garden, the rotting apples in Long March store, the sickly sweet dried longans and oily cured meat, and finally, the overpowering and gaudy scent of the cheap perfume worn by Marilyn, the store clerk. However, perhaps it didn't contain that many things. Maybe it just awakened the memories of Stonebridge town in the 1990s that were deeply ingrained in Sophia. This scent would still unexpectedly assail Sophia on a street in a foreign land, gripping her tightly. Even after 10 or 20 years, Sophia spent her childhood and adolescence in Stonebridge town until she graduated from high school and was admitted to a university in the north. Stonebridge town was a place lacking in character. Despite its name, there was no sign of a stone bridge. It had been demolished long ago when the moat was filled in, and the stones from the bridge might have been used to pave the roads. The buildings in the town were all regular, plain cuboids. Whether their outer walls were gray, yellow, or green, they all looked dull and uninteresting. With long streaks of rust trailing along the downspouts, the population mobility in Stonebridge town was very low. The people in the town mostly knew each other but not intimately. They maintained a kind of tenuous connection. On ordinary days, they would just nod or exchange a simple greeting. This lukewarm and reserved relationship covered the town like a net. Once an unusual event occurred, it would spread quickly throughout the town. Serious crimes like homicide and robbery were extremely rare in Stonebridge town. It wasn't a place where exciting stories happened. All it had were trivial matters, like the home-brewed rice wine in the town. After being stored for a long time, some fine sediment would settle at the bottom. The so-called unusual events were just ordinary domestic disputes. For example, a daughter-in-law and her mother-in-law had a big fight. Or a husband slapped his wife in the street. And the often unsubstantiated rumors about love affairs were always the most popular. When Marilyn was the subject of a love affair rumor, it became a highly anticipated event. Marilyn wasn't from Stonebridge town. She had no relatives in the town. No one bothered to find out exactly where she was from, only knowing that she was from somewhere in northern Jiangsu. This fact alone made the people in Stonebridge town dislike her. People from northern Jiangsu are really tough. How could Henry deal with her? When Henry married Marilyn, the townspeople whispered, their voices tinged with a bit of schadenfreude. Marilyn's mother-in-law, Mrs. Johnson, was also a difficult person. Marilyn's toughness hadn't been proven yet, but Mrs. Johnson's was well known. Now her son is marrying a woman from northern Jiangsu. I wonder what kind of chaos there will be, the townspeople said, waiting to watch the drama. At that time, the Henrys family was in an uproar. But in the end, Henry and Marilyn won the battle. Marilyn smoothly married into the Henrys family, soon transferred her household registration. And Henry even asked his brother-in-law to help her get a job as a store clerk every morning. The people in Stonebridge town could hear the clatter of Marilyn's high heels as she walked along 8th Avenue. Although Marilyn was just a store clerk at Long March store, she carried herself with an air of arrogance that no one else could match. Her home was quite far from the store, but because she wore skirts every day and couldn't ride a bike, she would rather get up 20 minutes early and walk to work. Marilyn didn't seem as tough as people had imagined. Although she didn't pay much attention to others, she never got into any conflicts. However, this didn't stop the women in the town from hating her. Look at her stuck-up look. She dresses so gaudily every day. I don't know if she's going to work or to flirt with men. She's such a flirt. They would say. A year after Marilyn got married, she gave birth to a daughter named Lily. Mrs. Johnson was very disappointed. She secretly used her connections at the family planning department to try to convince Marilyn to have another child. But Marilyn firmly refused. When Lily was 3 years old, Henry went to Japan for work, and Mrs. Johnson's hope of having a grandson became even slimmer after Henry went abroad. Marilyn still dressed up flamboyantly and went to work at Long March store every day. Gossip in the town increased. Marilyn pretended not to hear and just walked on. Not even blushing. 4 or 5 years passed without incident. But finally, something happened to Marilyn. She was caught in bed with another man by her mother-in-law. At that time, Henry's 3 sisters were also there, dragging along 7 or 8-year-old Lily. Mrs. Johnson threw open the door and started cursing Marilyn at the top of her lungs, although it said that family scandals should be kept private. Mrs. Johnson's anger and hatred for Marilyn clearly exceeded her desire to hide the shame. A crowd of onlookers quickly gathered. Marilyn and the man jumped out of bed and hurriedly started putting on their clothes. It was midsummer, and there were no quilts or blankets on the bed to cover themselves. Marilyn fumbled to put on her shorts and tried to reach behind her to fasten her bra. Mrs. Johnson grabbed Marilyn's hair and started kicking and hitting her. Marilyn let out a scream and let go of her bra to protect her head. Her bra came undone, exposing most of her chest. The smiles on the faces of the onlookers finally turned into bursts of laughter. After this incident, Henry rushed back from Japan and finalized the divorce agreement. Marilyn quickly disappeared completely from Stonebridge town. Some said she went back to her hometown in northern Jiangsu. Some said she remarried in a place where no one knew about her scandal. And some said she went crazy and was sent to a mental hospital outside. No one could tell which was true. Gradually, Marilyn's name was no longer mentioned frequently, however. Marilyn was still a unique woman in Stonebridge town. Her downfall was also quite dramatic. She wasn't the kind of woman who could be easily forgotten over time. Marilyn's dress was the tacky fashion of that era. Her makeup was overly gaudy, with thick foundation and scarlet lips. At that time, Sophia didn't know how those lips could arouse the fantasies of men and the jealousy of women. But she saw a kind of sensuality in Marilyn's blurred-edged lips, although she didn't know it was sensuality at that time. In the early 1990s, sensuality was a strange word. Later, when the word became commonplace and she had seen countless models flaunting their figures, with bare backs and voluptuous chests, the ultimate sensuality in Sophia's heart was still those 2 red lips of Marilyn in her memory, when Sophia was a child. She couldn't help but look at Marilyn a few more times whenever she went to Long March store. Marilyn would always lazily rest her chin on her hand, her eyelids drooping. Her big waved curls were loosely tied with a flowered handkerchief, and a few strands fell in front of her chest. When she saw someone coming, she would lazily lift her eyelids and ask, "What do you want?" Looking back now, Marilyn's features weren't really that good looking, but at that time, when Sophia peeked at Marilyn, who seemed half asleep behind the counter, she thought Marilyn was extremely beautiful. Sophia didn't tell anyone that Marilyn was the first woman she admired. Lily transferred to Northgate Elementary School in the 3rd grade. Sophia can't remember clearly what Lily was like at that time. She only vaguely remembers that Lily was a small and inconspicuous girl with a simple bob haircut, wearing ill-fitting old clothes, looking rather comical and down and out. The loose clothes made her figure seem even more slender. Lily stood in front of the podium to give a short self-introduction, always keeping her head down and speaking in a soft, thin voice. In Sophia's initial impression, she was a quiet, introverted, and even a bit dull girl. She wasn't very likable, but she didn't make people dislike her either. However, it didn't take long for Sophia to realize she was wrong. In less than a month, no one in the class wanted to talk to Lily. One reason was that Lily's grades were poor, and more importantly, she liked to lie. Lily's lying seemed to be an inborn instinct. She said that her father was studying in Japan and was a composer, and that he had bought her a room full of imported dolls. She also said that her mother could play the piano and often performed in Shanghai, always bringing back all kinds of candies and chocolates for her. She even claimed that she was a team leader in her previous school and always got the first place in exams. At first, some people were half convinced, but gradually everyone found that her lies were getting more and more exaggerated and full of loopholes. So they all looked down on her. One noon after school, Sophia was about to leave the school gate when she suddenly remembered that she had forgotten her keys. So she went back to the classroom. She saw someone rummaging through her desk. Sophia recognized that small figure at a glance. "What are you doing?" Sophia hesitated for a moment and then asked angrily. Lily was concentrating on looking through Sophia's pencil case and didn't notice anyone coming in. Suddenly hearing Sophia's voice, her face looking as panicked as a frightened rabbit. I was just looking around," she stammered, still holding Sophia's mechanical pencil in her hand. Sophia felt a bit at a loss. She picked up the keys on the table and turned to leave the classroom. This matter was left unresolved. Sophia had never been a girl who liked to gossip, so she didn't tell anyone about it, but she became more vigilant when leaving the classroom. Lily seemed a bit guilty and always avoided Sophia. Sophia felt even more annoyed with her, but there seemed to be a strange connection between them, which made Sophia start to pay attention to Lily involuntarily. Lily was also a girl with an ordinary appearance, but her ordinariness was different from Sophia's. Sophia's ordinariness was like a chrysanthemum in a secluded valley, like a calm pond without ripples. But Lily's ordinariness was like ashes hiding embers, like the sea before a storm. There was something restless hidden beneath her ordinary appearance. Sophia noticed that during lunch breaks or interval between lessons, Lily often sat by the window alone, watching the other students playing. With a gloomy expression and a hint of expectation, occasionally, she couldn't help but interject a few words, mostly wild and baseless talk, which only brought her another round of ridicule and sarcasm that spring-summer season. The girls who loved beauty, as in previous years, put on their skirts early and twirled their hems in the corridor, comparing them with each other. The girls with the highest lifted skirts received the most attention and the most eager admiration. Every girl, regardless of her family background, had at least a few skirts. Except for Lily and Sophia, Mrs. Johnson didn't allow her granddaughter to wear skirts, perhaps just to prevent Marilyn's influence from returning through Lily. In her opinion, the girl already resembled Marilyn in her eyebrows and expressions, and there was something in her eyes that was as hard to define as her mother's, which made Mrs. Johnson dislike and fear her. When Marilyn was around, she didn't pay much attention to Lily, but occasionally she would buy Lily some new clothes and dress her up nicely. After Marilyn disappeared from Stonebridge town, Mrs. Johnson gave away those beautiful dresses to the children of relatives and friends as a favor. Since then, Lily could only wear the old clothes that her cousins had outgrown. Sophia had hardly ever worn a skirt since she was a child. Her mother, Mrs. Green, didn't help her with her appearance either. Until junior high school, Sophia had short hair like a boy and mostly wore boyish clothes. In fact, Mrs. Green did not want Sophia to be beautiful. On the contrary, she was determined to make Sophia better than others in everything, such as getting the first place in every exam, having the most talents, and being a class leader. But when it came to beauty, Mrs. Green decided that it wasn't the right time yet. When she thought the time was right, she even secretly took some money from her meager private savings to buy cosmetics for Sophia. Without telling Mr. Green, Mrs. Green's logic was simple. She thought that if a girl focused on her appearance while studying, she would be distracted, which would lead to poor academic performance and might even make her go astray. The most important thing for a girl was to grow up safely. But even with all her precautions, something went wrong when Sophia was 12 years old. One afternoon, Mrs. Green prepared paper, pen, and ink for Sophia as usual and then went out to buy groceries. Sophia practiced calligraphy for a while but got bored. She put down her pen and sat there in a daze. At that moment, her eyes fell on the drawers of the chest of drawers. Sophia tried to pull the left-hand drawer, but it was locked. Then she tried the middle drawer, and this time it opened. There was a layer of red paper at the bottom of the drawer, and it was filled with all kinds of odds and ends. Sophia rummaged through it and found a few extra buttons, a sewing kit, an old ticket holder, several paper-cut shoe patterns, a can of urea cream made by the town's health center, and some other small items. After some searching, Sophia dug out Mrs. Green's lipstick from the corner. Sophia had seen her mother put on lipstick once, but she wiped it off right after. That was a long time ago. She stroked the silver-gray case and couldn't help opening it. The surface of the lipstick had tiny pearlescent particles that glowed gently and alluringly in the sunlight. Without thinking, Sophia carefully applied it to her lower lip in front of the dressing mirror on the cabinet door, and then pursed her lips like the women she saw on TV. Sophia looked at herself in the mirror carefully. The color of the lipstick was too mature and had a bit of a coquettish air, adding an ambiguous and abrupt touch to her otherwise bright face. When Mrs. Green came back, she didn't notice anything unusual about her daughter. For a while after that, Sophia looked forward to the half hour when her mother went to buy groceries every day and applied the lipstick with great enthusiasm. However, Sophia's secret was eventually discovered because the lipstick had become much shorter and its tip had been worn flat. Mrs. Green was furious and slapped Sophia across the face. This was the first time Mrs. Green had hit her daughter. Sophia had always been the apple of her eye, and she wouldn't have resorted to hitting her even when she was strict on normal days, but this time, Mrs. Green hit Sophia without hesitation. As if each slap was hitting herself, that lesson made Sophia understand that loving beauty was a sign of being worthless and shameful. So, loving beauty became a pain for Sophia. What she couldn't forget the most was a bright red dress that reached down to her ankles. When she twirled in it, it was like a blooming trumpet flower, full and flamboyant, but it didn't match the warm sunlight and the moist, grass-scented air of May. Whenever she thought of it, some abstract words would come to her mind, like freedom and despair. But Sophia often forgot that this was the only time she saw Lily wearing a skirt for some reason. One morning, Lily had an argument with a girl named Lisa. Everyone gathered around to watch the commotion. Sophia, who never liked to join in the fun, sat firmly in her seat reading a book. She heard Lily say, "Skirts are nothing special. My mom bought me a lot of skirts, much prettier than yours." Someone in the crowd let out a strange laugh. The boys winked at each other, and the girls exchanged knowing glances. With thick smiles on their lips, Lisa wasn't going to back down either. "If you're so great, wear one and show us. You're such a liar. Your mom is a flirt. And you're a liar too." There was another burst of laughter. I don't know who started it, but scattered applause began to ring out in the crowd. At first, there were only a few people, but gradually more and more people joined in, getting more and more excited. Lily blushed and tried to argue, but her small voice was soon drowned out by the unison applause. Suddenly, Sophia heard Lisa scream. She ran over and saw Lily grabbing Lisa's hair tightly, not letting go. No matter how much Lisa cried, the noise didn't stop until it attracted the attention of the duty teacher from the teaching affairs office. The crowd dispersed reluctantly, and soon everyone forgot about this incident. No one expected that a few days later, at noon, Lily came to school wearing a skirt. It was a striking bright red, so vivid that it seemed to drip color, and the hem reached down to her ankles. It was clearly not Lily's skirt. She tucked the hem of her white shirt into the skirt and tied it with a worn-out thin leather belt. But it still looked too big. Later, Sophia found out that it was Marilyn's skirt. Lily had stolen it from home without Mrs. Johnson's knowledge. Sophia only remembered that in the bright noon sunlight, Lily started spinning quickly. The skirt fluttered out like a passionately blooming trumpet flower. Lily's ecstatic twirling came to an abrupt halt with a sharp rebuke. Sophia, who was watching intently, was also startled. She looked in the direction of the sound and saw a gray-haired old lady with a face full of anger. Before Lily could react, Mrs. Johnson stepped forward and slapped her hard on the left cheek. 5 fingerprints immediately appeared. Lily's tears welled up and she stubbornly refused to give in. But Mrs. Johnson grabbed her arm and dragged her away forcefully. Sophia had never seen such a scene and was almost frightened out of her wits. Lily finally couldn't resist and was dragged away by Mrs. Johnson amidst the laughter of the crowd. Sophia watched them disappear around the corner of the stairs. Seeing Lily's right hand hanging limply, she felt a pang in her heart and her nose started to tingle. Later, Sophia thought that she must have felt a bit sorry for Lily at that time. Perhaps that was why, when the class committee discussed the Buddy Up activity in the 4th grade, Sophia volunteered to be Lily's partner. The class teacher was worried that no one would want to be paired with Lily, and Sophia, a reliable student, came forward with the proposal, which saved the teacher a lot of trouble. So, Lily was moved to sit next to Sophia. And that's when they really started to get to know each other. Sophia gradually discovered that Lily was actually very simple-minded. She was always grateful that Sophia had chosen to be her partner. When Lily later learned that it was Sophia's own idea, she became even more open-hearted towards her. Most of what Lily talked about was her grandmother, Mrs. Johnson. She complained about how mean her grandmother was, how she would scold and hit her, and how she would take out her anger on Lily when she lost at mahjong. When Lily got really angry, there was a childish kind of viciousness in her words, which made Sophia feel a bit uncomfortable. Lily sometimes mentioned her father, Henry, but she no longer told lies to Sophia. Instead, she was rather vague about many things. From her scattered words, Sophia could only vaguely guess that her father had gone to Japan when she was very young, divorced her mother later, married a Japanese woman, and stayed in Japan. He only came back during the holidays. Lily also told Sophia that she had met that Japanese woman, who was more than 10 years older than her father. Her father asked her to call the woman Aunt, and she did. Dad loves me the most. And Aunt is also very nice to me, Lily would always add at the end. However, Lily never mentioned her mother. Sometimes, when Sophia was curious and asked about her, Lily would just brush it off with a few words. Sophia learned that Lily's mother was Marilyn only by chance when she heard Mrs. Green mention it. Mrs. Green knew that Sophia often hung out with Lily because of the buddy-up activity. She didn't like it at all and often told Sophia to stay away from such a girl. She thought that even if Sophia wouldn't be led astray, she would still be dragged down. Sophia obediently agreed. And in fact, she didn't get too close to Lily. Mrs. Green's worry was not without reason. One of her annoyances was Lily's daily phone call in the evening. Sometimes she would call to ask about homework, but more often, she just wanted to chat with Sophia. Later, when Lily called, Mrs. Green would stand right next to Sophia and keep winking at her. Sophia could only answer perfunctorily. One evening, after the Green family had dinner and Sophia's aunt was also there, Mrs. Green stayed in the living room to chat with her sister while asking Sophia to go back to her small room to do homework. Just then, the phone rang. Mrs. Green got up impatiently to answer it. Sophia heard her say. Sophia went to her teacher's place to learn the piano. Yeah, she'll be back very late. Then she hung up the phone. Mrs. Green sat down and complained to Sophia's aunt. It's Marilyn's daughter. Sophia's school has this buddy-up activity. This kid keeps pestering our Sophia all day long. I'll go talk to her class teacher another day. She must think our Sophia is easygoing and is bullying her. When Sophia's aunt heard Marilyn's name, she became interested. What does Marilyn's daughter look like? Does she look like her mother? I've never seen her. How would I know? It would be better if she doesn't look like her, Mrs. Green replied. The daughter of that kind of woman. Is she really Henry's? At this point, Sophia's aunt lowered her voice, and the rest of the conversation was inaudible. Only Mrs. Johnson's attitude towards Lily remained the same. Every now and then, Lily would roll up her sleeves to show Sophia the bruises on her arms. Sophia was always deeply afraid of Lily's grandmother, Mrs. Johnson. So, when Lily first invited her to her home, Sophia felt both surprised and scared. It's okay. She plays mahjong every afternoon and won't be back until 5. Lily comforted her. We'll just play for a while. I'll show you Owo. Owo was a kitten that Lily had picked up in the green belt that spring. At first, Mrs. Johnson tried to throw the cat away several times, but Lily would always run to pick it up. Every time Mrs. Johnson threw it, Lily would retrieve it. Mrs. Johnson would get so angry that she would beat and pinch Lily. But Lily wouldn't cry or shout. After that, she would still go and get the cat back. After several such incidents, Mrs. Johnson got tired and finally gave up. Lily's home was on the old street. It was one of the first batch of apartment buildings built in Stonebridge town after liberation. When it was first built, the outer wall was a light creamy yellow. But now it was so dirty that its original color couldn't be seen. Lily and Sophia walked up the narrow staircase in the middle. The walls of the corridor were covered with years of cooking oil fumes. In the dim light, it looked like a dirty, blurred mess. At the top of the stairs, there was a rusty dark green iron door with rubber strips at the bottom, sealing the gap tightly. Lily took out the key from her school bag and opened the door. As soon as Lily entered the door, Owo meowed and rubbed against her feet. Lily pushed it away with her instep and nimbly reached behind the door to get the slippers. There were 2 pairs of slippers, one big and one small. Lily put on the big pair and bent down to put the small pair in front of Sophia. After changing her shoes, Lily picked up Owo and showed it to Sophia. Owo was a beautiful tabby cat with nice brown patterns all over its body. Sophia bent down slightly, and the cat eyed her warily. Come and touch it, Lily said, handing the cat over. Sophia was a bit scared and hesitantly reached out her hand to stroke the cat's back. The cat's smooth fur gave Sophia a warm feeling in her palm. "Isn't it cute?" Lily said, lovingly stroking the cat's chin with her index finger. The cat curled up in her arms and purred contentedly. Sophia imitated Lily and gently touched the cat's chin. Suddenly, the cat arched its back alertly and quickly stretched out its claws. Sophia was almost scratched and quickly pulled her hand back in fear. Lily patted the cat on the head and put it on the ground. The cat then scurried into the room after looking at the cat. Both of them felt a bit disappointed and didn't know what to do next. Lily looked around but couldn't find anything to entertain Sophia with. And she felt even more embarrassed after sitting in silence for a while. Lily seemed to suddenly think of something. "Sophia, do you want to see the kimono my aunt gave me?" Sophia had only seen Japanese clothes on TV and was very curious, so she immediately agreed. Lily lifted the curtain and led Sophia into the inner room, while Lily was carefully looking for the kimono. Sophia looked around. Mrs. Johnson's room was not big and was simply furnished. There were only 2 or 3 necessary pieces of furniture. A bed, a 3-door cabinet covered with cotton thread crocheted lace. The bed and the cabinet were painted a dark brown, probably because of the humid climate. The paint on the surface had started to peel off over the years, revealing the light red color inside. Like new flesh on a wound, there was only an old-fashioned dressing table in a dark red color. It looked very old and was originally Mrs. Johnson's grandmother's dowry. There was an exquisitely carved mirror on the dressing table. Sophia had the impression that even the mirror seemed to have a dim, yellowish tint, giving it an old-fashioned and somewhat stagnant look. The room was very clean. It had the kind of cleanliness that was unique to an elderly widow, which made Sophia feel a bit uneasy for no reason. "Found it." Lily tried to keep her voice down, but her excitement was hard to hide. "I knew she hid it here." Lily put the kimono on the bed. The dim and gloomy room suddenly became brighter, as if the deep autumn room had suddenly been filled with the colors of spring. It was a beautiful girl's long-sleeved kimono with a plain light pink base adorned with elegant white cherry blossoms. "I'll put it on and show you," Lily said as she took off her coat and pullover. Without waiting for Sophia to say anything, she even took off her undershirt, baring her upper body in front of Sophia without the slightest bit of shyness. Sophia blushed deeply and quickly lowered her head to avoid looking, but still couldn't help noticing that Lily's chest had slightly developed. Sophia suddenly realized that Lily had grown much taller and her figure had become a bit curvier compared to when she first transferred. Lily turned her back to Sophia. It was cold, and Sophia saw goosebumps on Lily's arms. "Aren't you cold? Hurry up and put on your clothes," Sophia said. But Lily remained motionless. Sophia patted her on the shoulder, and Lily slowly turned around. Perhaps it was the glow of the setting sun on her face, but her cheeks were bright red. "What do you think of Jake?" Lily suddenly asked. "Ah." Sophia was caught off guard. "What do you think of him?" Lily repeated. Sophia saw the sparkle in Lily's eyes and understood what she meant. Her face flushed, and her heart started pounding. Lately, there had been a lot of rumors in the class about who liked whom, most of which were baseless. But everyone joined in the gossip. Jake was the class's P.E. monitor. He was originally a grade above them but took a year off and joined their grade in the 4th grade. He was very popular among the girls. These days, the whole class was talking about how he liked Lisa, the class beauty. A boy like him would never notice Lily, Sophia thought. "I'm not sure. He seems nice," Sophia replied hesitantly, not knowing what else to say. "Have you ever liked a boy?" Lily asked again. Sophia shook her head, her face turning red all the way to her neck. Lily didn't say anything more. She picked up the white inner shirt from the bed and put it on, then put on the kimono, leaving the wide sash aside. "I don't know how to tie the sash, and if I wrinkle it, Grandma will find out." The kimono was a bit long, almost reaching the ground. Lily carefully held the hem and walked forward a few steps gracefully, then turned in a stiff circle. Finally, she let the hem drag on the floor and started twirling with her hands outstretched. The cherry blossoms on the kimono fluttered like snowflakes as the sleeves danced. Sophia suddenly felt sorry for her. She thought it would be great if Jake could see Lily like this. That it was because of that kimono that Sophia and Lily gradually drifted apart later, the following spring. As the winter gloom lifted and the first signs of spring crept onto the tree branches, it was time to start preparing for the school art festival in May. The art festival had always been the most important event in the school. According to the tradition, each class had to present a performance, which would be judged during the final show. The class that won the first prize not only brought glory to the homeroom teacher but also received a cash reward. As time went on, the art festival became a competition among the classes, so no one dared to be careless. Most classes started rehearsing months in advance. Last year, Sophia's class performed a small chorus and only got a participation award, which was basically the last place. Their homeroom teacher, Mrs. Smith, was very embarrassed about it. This year, a pretty trainee teacher who had graduated from a normal university joined the class. She was good at dancing. Mrs. Smith thought that with her help, it would be easy to win a prize and regain some face point one afternoon after school. Sophia stayed for a class committee meeting to discuss the art festival. They had held several meetings before, but still hadn't decided on a program. There were all kinds of ideas, but none of them were satisfactory. Mrs. Smith was getting impatient. Ms. Thompson, what do you think would be a good program? Mrs. Smith asked directly, looking at Ms. Thompson. I've been thinking about it these days, Ms. Thompson said, a faint blush appearing on her cheeks, which didn't escape Sophia's notice. I learned Japanese dance in school before. I think a Japanese solo dance would be great. What do you all think? Mrs. Smith seemed interested in the proposal. Choral performances and poetry recitations had been done to death. They were tiring to rehearse and often didn't yield good results. A Japanese dance had never been performed by any class before. The class committee members all nodded in agreement. But Ms. Thompson looked worried. But there's a problem with the costumes. Fans are easy to find. But where can we get a kimono? Lily has a kimono, Sophia blurted out without thinking. Seeing the young teacher's distress, Mrs. Smith was delighted. Sophia, ask Lily to come to my office tomorrow. Then she turned to Ms. Thompson and asked, Ms. Thompson, who do you think in the class is suitable for this dance? Ms. Thompson looked around at the girls and finally her eyes fell on a tall and beautiful girl. I heard that Lisa has learned dancing. Right. At this moment, Sophia began to worry that Lily might not be willing. Lisa was the recognized class beauty. She was good-looking, well-behaved, and got good grades. She was very popular with the teachers, which made her a bit spoiled. With her sharp tongue, she often embarrassed others. She and Lily seemed to be natural enemies, always making fun of Lily's shabby clothes or dark skin. There was another reason that Lily had only told Sophia. It was about Jake. Everyone said that Lisa and Jake were a couple, and even the teachers in the office joked that they were a perfect match. How could Jake like someone like her? Lily often said to Sophia, but she didn't sound very confident now. Asking Lily to lend her precious kimono to Lisa to wear, Sophia knew that Lily would be very unhappy. The next day at noon, Sophia told Lily that Mrs. Smith wanted to see her in the office. What for? Lily looked confused. I didn't do anything wrong, did I? Sophia, do you know why she wants to see me? You'll find out when you go. Sophia replied evasively. Feeling guilty, Lily was gone for a long time. Just before class started, Sophia saw Lily come in through the back door with a sullen face. She didn't even look at Sophia and didn't talk to her for the whole afternoon. After school, Lily didn't wait for Sophia to go home together. A few days later, Sophia saw Lily's grandmother, Mrs. Johnson, in the office. She was holding a white cloth-wrapped package and talking to Mrs. Smith. Lisa's solo dance won the top prize in the art festival. During the performance, Ms. Thompson helped Lisa put her hair up high, revealing her slender and fair neck. She also did heavy makeup on Lisa and put hairpins and flowers in her shiny black hair. Everyone said that the kimono looked perfect on Lisa. Ms. Thompson even used a fancy word to describe her. Breathtaking. As Lisa danced gracefully on stage, Sophia saw silent tears roll down Lily's face. It was said that not long after, Jake sent Lisa a love letter, and later someone saw them going to the town's most fashionable ice rink together. Time passed quickly. A year later, they went to different schools in opposite directions. Sophia rarely saw Lily and no longer heard any news about her. It was not until the third year of junior high school that she heard that Mrs. Johnson had passed away. She died peacefully in her bed with no illness. What about Lily? Where did she go? Sophia asked Mrs. Green. I don't know. She has some aunts. Right. Maybe she's with them. Mrs. Green replied. Mrs. Johnson left the house and her savings to Henry alone. Lily's aunts resented their mother and didn't seem very sad when they mourned. They just wiped away a few tears casually. But Lily cried so hard that she almost fainted several times. Sophia thought about going to see Lily, but she only walked to the downstairs of her house, stood there for a while, and then decided not to go up. Lily didn't pass the high school entrance exam and went to a vocational school. She often hung out with some shady people in the town, smoking, drinking, and staying out all night. There were always different men around her, coming and going. It was even said that she was dating a local hooligan named Tom. Later, Sophia saw Lily on the street. She was walking with a group of boys and girls, all of them smoking and showing off. Some of them had dyed hair. Lily was wearing tight clothes and was being hugged by a sleazy-looking man. Maybe he was Tom. Lily didn't seem to recognize Sophia and just walked past her. Sophia looked at herself in her school uniform. With her innocent student look, she felt a bit of superiority, but also a touch of melancholy. She knew that they were now in different worlds. 2 months before the college entrance exam, Sophia heard rumors about Lily again. This time, the news spread like wildfire in Stonebridge town. Lily had been dumped by Tom. It wasn't really news since Tom, whose father was wealthy and powerful, was notorious for playing around with women in the town. The women who were with him usually knew what they were getting into, but Lily didn't. They said that she had fallen in love for real. After being abandoned by Tom, she took a whole bottle of sleeping pills. She didn't die, but became the talk of the town instead. After that, Sophia never saw Lily again. For an unmarried girl, such an incident made it impossible for her to stay in Stonebridge town. She's really Marilyn's daughter, people said, with sneers and disdain on their faces. However, Sophia thought there was some truth to this. After all, Lily was Marilyn's daughter. There was always something in common between them. It was something Sophia didn't have. She was somewhat relieved because of this. Yet there was also a tinge of regret. As if she had lost something. People who knew Sophia all said that she was a very well-behaved child. Indeed, Sophia was obedient. She had never done anything out of line since she was a kid. The boldest thing she had ever done was having a secret crush on a boy named Ryan in high school. Now, she couldn't remember what he looked like, what his voice sounded like, or even why she had a crush on him. But back then, she did all the bravest things she had ever done. She tried every means to find out his phone number and then called him anonymously. She would also daydream in class and secretly draw his profile. She even wrote him love letters, which she finally tore into pieces and flushed down the toilet. She also skipped a day of school to see him off at the train station when he transferred to a big city. That day, Sophia got up early as usual. She put on a white shirt and a dark blue school uniform skirt. After having the eggs, soy milk, and steamed buns prepared by Mrs. Green, she carefully combed her hair in front of the mirror and picked off each strand of hair that fell on her white shirt. Mrs. Green brought over her white canvas running shoes, which had some dirt on the surface. "Mom, I'll wear those black leather shoes today," Sophia said casually. "We have P.E. class the day after tomorrow, and if I wear these running shoes, I won't have time to wash them if they get dirty." Mrs. Green didn't think much of it and gave her the newly bought black leather shoes. "Be careful when you wear them. Don't kick any stones." "Okay, I know," Sophia replied calmly. She bent down to change her shoes, then carried her school bag and left home as if nothing was wrong. Instead of going to school, she went straight to the bus station. Ever since she knew Ryan was leaving, Sophia had been planning everything for that day. She secretly saved enough money for the trip, made up an excuse for asking for leave, asked her homeroom teacher for permission in advance, and even colluded with a few friends. This was the first time Sophia left Stonebridge town alone. She bought a ticket and confidently got on the bus to the provincial capital. Everything went surprisingly smoothly. However, at the moment the bus started moving, she still felt nervous, a bit excited, a bit thrilled. and a bit curious. She watched through the window as Stonebridge town in early summer slowly moved backward until it was completely out of sight. And the scenery outside became unfamiliar. The train station was crowded with people. Everyone was in a hurry, dragging suitcases or carrying bulging travel bags, looking either tired or excited. Sophia wandered around the train station curiously, imagining that Ryan would suddenly appear in front of her. He should still be carrying that blue single-shoulder bag, right? Would he be surprised to see her? Surely he would. At this time, she should have been in class. So, would he ask? And if he did, what should she say? Sophia stood at the train station until dusk. She remembered that the sunlight that day was very nice. When she walked out of the train station, she saw that the setting sun had dyed the trees and flowers on the roadside a golden red color. Still, she didn't see Ryan. She got home more than 40 minutes later than usual. Sophia knew Mrs. Green would surely question her, so she had already come up with an excuse. We had a math mock test in the last class today, and the class ended one period later because of it. How did you do, Mrs. Green asked eagerly as she was bringing the soup for dinner to the table. It's okay. We'll know when the results come out, Sophia replied calmly, picking up the soup spoon. Until now, only Sophia knew about this matter. Later, she often thought back to that day, and it felt unreal. She sometimes even doubted whether she had really done such a thing or if it was just her imagination. Maybe she had just gone to school as usual that day, and maybe she had really taken a math mock test. Now, Sophia is still as well behaved as ever. She gets up early every day, reads English for half an hour, and then goes to class. She is never late for elective courses, let alone skip classes. She takes very neat notes and starts reviewing 2 months before exams. Doing these things has become her habit. She is used to following the path planned by Mrs. Green and carefully managing her daily life. She studies, gets a job, falls in love, gets married, and has children. Her future seems to be clearly laid out. It seems that few people know or care about what Sophia is thinking. Even Sophia herself doesn't pay much attention. The life she is living now is the life she is supposed to live. Is this kind of life really good? Sophia has never thought about it carefully. Maybe, as her mother Mrs. Green said, growing up safely is all that matters.